So kind of with the John Cena interview that came out recently, kind of detailing more in depth kind of the thought processes and stuff behind his final retirement tour and run kind of on his side. It does kind of seem like there was a battle with him and WWE on whether or not, or what the execution plan kind of was. So unfortunately, kind of looking into more of what was going down, it does seem like John Cena wanted to have more of like a full-time role within his last year, and he wanted to do a lot more dates. And it did seem like WWE slash TKO was kind of stingent on, the Cena appearances and stuff. Kind of they were the ones who wanted to keep it to that 36 dates. Cena wanted to kind of, obviously, I think now with his final pay-per-view event, or Saturday night's main event match, he's gonna have NXT guys kind of there to showcase them and stuff. But it does seem like he had a lot more kind of grandiose plans for this run. Even in explaining the heel turn that happened at the beginning of the year, he did say he feels that certain heel turns like that kind of need more time to kind of happen organically in a way that resonate well and are effective. He does kind of see the heel turn as a failure, unfortunately. Whereas I do think there were some bright spots in it. I do think the moment was done really well, and it kind of did. It will always kind of exist in the annals of time, I think, in terms of pro wrestling, regardless. Obviously, I think compared to Hogan's turn with the NWO and what that kind of led to, obviously I think now we can kind of say the Hogan turn still is the greatest heel turn, even as someone who's completely biased, who doesn't enjoy Hogan's work professionally or personally. Like, that heel turn is a lot more effective and leading down to what we got later on in terms of wrestling canon and just the whole Monday Night Wars. Obviously, I think that one kind of wins there. But regardless, getting back onto the topic, the whole deal with kind of Cena's run, I think recently, unfortunately, is that, it does feel haphazard and last minute, and despite this being something that was deliberately planned, it goes to my kind of questioning that I've been having kind of over the last couple of months covering the WWE is kind of with this TKO acquisition and further kind of their tendrils being drenched into the WWE umbrella. How much of the creative process actually has been affected in this last year in 25? We've kind of seen a slowdown in terms of overarching narratives and real narrative structure and hook to a lot of what's been on Raw and SmackDown. I think we've had a lot of good shows, and obviously the quality is still not something of Vince level necessarily, but I think what John Cena illustrates in his problems about not being able to have a proper run or be able to get his ideas executed in a timely manner or have something managed where he kind of feels satisfied does, I think, speak to the overall problem in hierarchy and structure that WWE kind of stunted storylines and stuff, like the Vision being kind of like moments here and there that have sprinkles of great things, but the week to week booking does kind of feel plodding, and we're kind of biding our time waiting for returns and very cheap tactics to get kind of people over. When we had the Bloodline era and kind of that Cody reign as well, and that piled into the whole Rock thing, we kind of did have a lot of different powder kegs in the same roster that we kind of have now, but in terms of like they were firing on all cylinders. You had your Gunther IC title reign, so that part of the card was extremely interesting and being built. You had the rise of LA Knight in that period. Like, you had so many different pieces that not only kept what that main narrative was interesting, but you had a lot of things to look forward to every week. And in this era, especially with the smaller cards, with the downsizing of on-air talent, it seems like with a lot of these anti kind of consumer practices as well that WWE isn't really necessarily known for, since I think with Vince era they were kind of known as the budget entertainment. Now they are kind of that premium Super Bowl option. I think in terms of even the storytelling, it's taken a back seat to now appease, corporate sponsors and be as fun as possible, but only within the context of a single event to wow and amaze whoever's there in attendance, which I think in terms of singular events and spectaculars is fair, but that's not going to be every Raw. There's the majority of a base that makes up your show. That's the people who are dedicated to watching every weekend. If you start to alienate them and constantly price them out, eventually there won't be no one who will go to see your products and give you the fanfare to make it so that you can get to a Vegas or go somewhere where WWE's name is touted as a respected entertainment brand. You need to have those fans that respect that. And I think, with the booking, with John Cena's retirement tour being kind of lackadaisical, yet kind of a half-assed attempt at appeasing the fans, as well as the talent themselves trying extremely hard to work within the confines of what they're given, it's pretty obvious that there's a power structure or some sort of hierarchy or something happening in terms of whoever is working on these storylines and stuff like that, where things aren't getting to where they should be. In terms of financial strategies, I think, no matter what, they're probably doing well, but in my opinion, I don't understand any worth in financial strategy as a fan. I don't care whether or not WWE does well, because that doesn't mean my product is better. That just means that they're making money. I always loved that whole kind of notion that if like the company I like making stuff is doing well, then I'm doing well. No, that just means they're making more money. They can be making more money by charging the user base more. That doesn't mean that the product they're putting out is any different. They just charge more for the user base, and now the numbers are going up. That doesn't distract from the fact of rising ticket prices, waning fanfare, and lackluster shows and endings, and really lackluster week-to-week booking. It's just to kind of book towards kind of a touristic audience. It's just it's annoying. And I think especially it happening in the middle of John Cena's farewell tour, someone who's essentially the GOAT, as they acknowledge, does kind of feel a little bit disrespectful, especially when he wanted to kind of pay everything forward and maybe have a couple of storylines that could have really set up the years moving forward for other like superstars. I think Dominic's really the only person that we were able to get that in, and that was in a last minute kind of Hail Mary that I think is a reaction to the vitriol to John Cena's retirement tour being so sparse. Let me know what you guys kind of think. It seems like Cena's kind of fed up. I think we're kind of fed up as well. He's obviously a champ. He's going to be extremely diplomatic about it, but I think in a couple years down the line, once he's kind of more removed from the WWE umbrella and he can kind of work independently, I think we'll get more of an insight into everything that kind of went down and how things ended up the way they did. So let me know what you guys kind of think about the Cena thing, and hopefully SmackDown tonight is pretty interesting. Take care.